Hello everybody, I want to share with you how to train your students for trauma as a community. So if someone sees a therapist one-on-one, we call that an individual session. If it's a group session, it's a representative group, small population of maybe a full community. But if it's a community, we're talking people as a whole. In schools, which we call communities, we want to be able to attend to students on a scale. Scale meaning larger numbers. So we can have one type of model that attends to all the students. So when we scale out school code of conduct, we are expecting that all the students will be affected by the school code of conduct. When we create school-wide expectations, we scale it so it attends to all students in the community. Well, let's do trauma for the community. So what does that mean? Students who suffer from psychological and emotional trauma don't necessarily need a licensed therapist in order to help them with their trauma. How do we know that? Greatest example, yoga. People with yoga, they do breathing exercises, they do calming, parasympathetic function. They train individuals, and I'm talking about yoga instructors, on how to calm their nervous system. And what nervous system is it? It's the parasympathetic nervous system. So we want to do the same thing. We want to do the same thing for students in order to either launch their day, preventively get their stress hormones down, or even systemically over a period of time, just to get students in a more parasympathetic, which is a calming state of neurological or neuroanatomical function, which is, if you really know science or anatomy, it is your rest and digest function. That's what we call it. And that's just a easy way of remembering it. They call it rest and digest because if you're going to sleep, you need to be in a parasympathetic function. If you're going to digest, you need to be in a parasympathetic function. If you're even going to poop, you got to be in a parasympathetic function. If you're in a sympathetic function, you have that push of glucose in your bloodstream, which is very common. People with trauma, they're highly activated, very easily set off, very reactive to just stress in general. So what do? What we do is, as a group as a whole, we get our students to learn first how to do slow, deep, rhythmic breathing. So whereas the normal, average, neurotypical, daily, everyday, typical function of breathing is a breath in and a breath out. Most people breathe with their nose and their mouth together and don't even realize it. And some people, if you're an East Coaster, meaning you're from the East Coast, Jersey, New York is the epitome of this. We're breathing so fast, we're ready to fight all the time, right? And that's a bad stereotype, but it is an accurate stereotype. It's a very kind of socially aggressive territory where we're not great deep breathers, where we breathe in through our nose and out of our nose responsibly. So let's get this started. When we teach students how to breathe in through their nose for 3 seconds, ready? Go. And out of their nose for 3 seconds. And then in. And out. What we're doing is slowing the nervous system down, and it's your autonomic nervous system, which is comprised of the sympathetic and parasympathetic areas, regions, functions, and they work differently. So the sympathetic raises stress hormones, the parasympathetic brings it back down. We want our students to start off their day with the stress hormones being brought back down, because when your stress hormones are up, your prefrontal cortex is not available to you. It's just not. Cortisol levels literally completely offend and derail and distract and do not allow, we'll use another word, disrupt the function of your prefrontal cortex, which is why when people are reactive and they're in a fight or flight, another way of saying sympathetic nervous system function, they don't use common sense. They react. They're not responding. The word is respond when you're using your frontal lobes. When it's pure adrenaline, pure cortisol, it's react. And then those who you can't stop, because when the brain is activated during that time, many people will then get even extra glucose in their bloodstream, causing them to overreact, and therefore they become rigid and inflexible. This is why training your staff is so critical, because the more the student escalates, the more that the adult who is supervising or adults need to stay in a parasympathetic function. If the student escalates with their stress hormones and the adults escalate with them, disaster. It's the worst thing that could ever happen, because something terrible is going to result. So how do we start training our students? We get them in a class, and I work with some of the toughest students in the world. Tough, gangbangers, street fighters. I mean, just people who are so traumatized. Just the thought of coming to school makes them resistant, oppositional, reactive. And then the families are also reactive, and not all of them, but many of them. And then we have all these reactive people together, and what it does is wears on the staff, and the staff can become reactive, which is why we need staff training. You need people like Buzz, which is what I do, go into the schools and train the staff on how to do this in real time. And we just don't want to train them, everybody, administrators. We actually want to train them using what you already have developed, or with your newly developed policies, procedures, and protocols. We want to train them in a workbook, and a plan, and a guide, and with blueprints that shows them this is how we do it. Or otherwise, everyone's going to use their own tools, and there's no coordinated effort, which is even more of a disaster. So, how do we get it done in the masses? Class starts, we say, everybody, for 30 seconds, we're going to breathe in through our nose and out our nose. Or in, you might want to start with in through your nose, out your mouth. Let's make them breathers, right? When you're rhythmic, meaning you're on a schedule and a rhythm, when you're rhythmic breathers, your rhythm dictates all your vitals. That's what's really cool. Your heart rate, your pulse rate, your respiratory rate. You can, if you have a point system, you have behavior mod, you're just a great validator as an educator, you can make this such a big deal of being the ambassador, of being a responder, not a reactor, an ambassador of a parasympathetic function person, an ambassador of the Tom Brady function of high-performing athletes, high-performing students, the ambassador of somebody who can navigate through hard times with magnificent wellness, the ambassador of ninja-like breathing techniques. You call it whatever you want. I like creating really cool names and titles because it makes it feel special. It makes students want to do it. So breathing is our number one, and we're going to do more of these through more videos, but is our number one skill set, because breathing dictates the rest of your function. So ready? So let's do it again. Breathing in, 3 seconds, and go. Breathing out. They can't do the nose. Ready? Breathing in. Breathing out with the mouth. When you do this, someone could be counting for the students. You can use different types of technology. It has a drum. Boom, boom, boom. You could use a song. And that's how I train in martial arts. I use music where the music has a beat that falls rhythmically on the exact sequence and timing that I need to coordinate my moves. And then I train to that song indefinitely. And then when I'm in the ring as a martial artist, which I've done my entire life, when I'm in the ring competing, I just think of the song and it immediately calibrates my breathing. So what's better? In through the nose, out the mouth, in through the nose, out the nose. In through the nose, out the nose. But you have to practice at that. Start with in through the nose, out the mouth. When air comes in through your mouth, it is cold air. Restricts your vascular system, the vessels. Makes it harder to breathe, raises stress hormones, could make people aggressive. That is not the goal. We want to humidify the air going in through the nose. Humidifies the air to get it in your chest. And you can start with out the mouth. In through the nose. Out the nose. We can make this a group project. That is lesson 1 in working with the masses, training your community on how to undo trauma, because you're most at risk for trauma reactions, to trauma triggers, if your stress hormones are up. And what is the number one thing to combat stress hormones? Breathing. And we can all do it because that's how we stay alive. Let's just get skilled at becoming rhythmic breathers using the Dr. Buzz method. Good luck on that. Keep following my videos because there's so many more to come.